the supreme elitist capitalist of the West, the Morgans, the Rockefellers, people of this caliber, never moved a straw in favor of liberal capitalism. On the contrary, they did everything to promote three types of socialism: Fabian socialism in Western Europe and the United States, Marxist socialism in the Soviet Union, Eastern Europe and China, and National Socialism in Central Europe. Spent on it rivers of money. He created the Soviet industrial park in Stalin's camp, the Führer's military industry, and most recently China's economic and military power. These three things would never exist without American money. It would be impossible. All of this was built by Wall Street. In the confrontations between the three socialisms, the Fabian always won, because he is the only one who has at his service the most advanced technology. A flexible strategy for all situations, and better yet, all the time in the world. The symbol of Fabianism is a turtle. Now, look, Fabian Society was founded in 1883. It is the most influential school of thought among Western elites to this day. Everyone is Fabian. Woodrow Wilson was Fabian, Franklin Roosevelt was a Fabian, Barack Obama, a Fabian, right? In our Brazil, many of the privates who ruled during this military regime were Fabian socialists. And so on. Then, Fabian socialism is the socialism of those who are in no hurry to implant socialism. So when you have a socialist experiment, whether it's communism or National Socialism, they help, they give you money, they want to see where you're going, they say good, maybe we can take advantage of this. And they always end up enjoying IVONA. Then there appeared socialism in the Soviet Union, immediately the Morgans, etc., everyone who had money here, filled the guys with money, to set up socialism, saying clearly, this money is to help the Bolsheviks consolidate their regime. One of the reasons for this is, the guys understand too much of economy, so they know that a totally nationalized economy has no initiative in the technological field. There is no frantic technological progress, as here in the United States, 82% of the world's inventions come from the United States, they always came. So they know that the guys are going to be late. You want to do Marxist socialism? Do. So they do, and then they get behind in technology, and depending on who has the technology, and who has the technology. It is the elite of the West, who are the Fabian socialists. That's right. So they considered communism a kind of smaller brother, and Nazism, too. They caressed their heads. They stroked Lenin's head. Stroked Hitler's head. They say in the end they're going to fuck off and everything will be remaining for us, is not it? How indeed it remained. So in the meantime, they go gradually, tightening the nuts and bolts of state control of the economy in the West. You cannot name at least one. There is not a single country of liberal economy in the world yet. It's all Fabian socialism, my people. So, now, since Fabian socialism is in no hurry to reach any objective, and he also does not know, he is like the Lula, we do not know what kind of socialism we want. We are squeezing here, putting more control here, another control there. We are creating the scientific administration of society, and gradually we are controlling everything so that we get to integral socialism in the end. When? I do not know when, but one day will come. The others were hasty. Well, Hitler wanted Nazism, but wanted Nazism not within 2,500 years, he wanted Nazism in his lifetime. So the Fabians thought, oh, you're in a hurry? So we're going to help you do it, you're going to screw yourself up, and all the pillage is going to remain for us. The communists, too, are in a bit less of a hurry, but they're in a hurry, too. So that's what happened. Then Nazism, fulfilling its mission to liquidate with the European powers, and divide the world between the Western elite and the communist movement, precisely according to Stalin's plan, was thrown into the garbage can of history, and from the end of the Second War to the 1980s only survived in the evanescent form of neo-Nazism, a ghost, summoned by communist governments to frighten little children and divert attentions, as was done, for example, as in the case of the attack of the Pope. Fabianism, well, Nazism is over, the other two are left, Fabian socialism and Marxist socialism. Fabianism was never an enemy of Marxist socialism. The Fabianism loves it and cultivates it, because Marxist economics, incapable of technological progress, guarantees a market of captives. And also because Fabians has always considered communism as an instrument of his global strategy. The communists, of course, respond in the same way, trying to use Fabian socialism for their own ends, and infiltrating all the socialist and democratic parties of the West. So this is brother fight, you understand? Each tries to move a little here, a little there, but there is no confrontation. You see, the maximum of anti-communism they invented in the West was such a policy of containment. What is the policy of containment? The Soviet Union had already dominated half of the world, so they said, you stop there, that half of the world is ours. But they did nothing against communism. You see, they could have liquidated the Communist Party at any moment. You see, by the time the Second War ended, the Soviet Union's army was in tatters, the economy was totally destroyed, everyone was with saucer in the hands in front of American bankers. What could they have said? No, we will not give you any more money. There is, finish, would have ended communism in 1945. Why did not they do it? Because they wanted to keep communism. We need these guys, let them do their socialism there. We help, because in the end that will win are ourselves. So this means, what that this joke wants to say, you feed Nazis, you feed communists. You see, these guys were jointly responsible for the liquidation of hundreds of millions of people. So let's go. The inevitable friction points between Fabianism and communism is debited in the account of capitalist greed, strengthening the moral authority of the communists, in the face of the idiots of the Third World, while at the same time helping the Fabians to tighten state controls over the economies of the West, strangling capitalism on the pretext of saving it. It always happens that way. Whatever happens, in case there is a problem, then there is a worldwide campaign against capitalist greed, against imperialism, etc., etc. And so the elite immediately says, no, we have to reform capitalism, we have to save capitalism that is entering crisis, and hence puts, more state control, more state control. It is always that way. Who ends up getting screwed at the end are the true believers of economic liberalism. Without sufficient power to interfere in the great world decisions, they have become mere auxiliary force of Fabian socialism, and in general do not even perceive it. So horrible this perspective for their sincere souls. You see, nothing can be more hateful to a classic liberal man than Fabian socialism. Is it, how I say that they became auxiliary force? It's very simple. The classical liberals are doctrinal people. So you ask them, are you in favor of protectionism, protectionist controls? They respond not because it restricts market freedom. The protectionist controls are over, so all nations trade freely with them all. To the extent that these national frontiers ends, what happens? The need for global regulations arises. So that means that the liberals, fighting these little national leviathans, opened the way to the world macro leviathan, which is where the Fabians wanted to go. This was not meant by the classical liberals, but that's what happens. So the unilateral defense of market freedom, free trade, etc., etc., without taking into account the political, military and geostrategic factors, etc., end up strengthening the globalist project of the Fabian socialists. Not that I am against economic liberalism, I am entirely in favor. That's right. But you have to do things, given the global context in which they are happening. And not so, simply, let's follow the article of faith, the free market. So the free market is the universal general principle. No, it cannot be the universal general principle. You should see when is the time. And when this free market really fosters democracy, and when it is used as an instrument or tool, right, by people who have a more embracing plan, as it is exactly the case. But at times the fraternal competition between Fabians and communists becomes complicated. With the fall of the Soviet Union, the Fabians, they thought the time had come to reap the fruits of their long collaboration with communism. And they fell upon Russia like vultures, buying everything at a vile price, including an awareness of the old communists. Alexander Dugin is outraged by this until today, when in the time of Yeltsin, there he opens quotation marks the order was all these people. The Western economic elite, which is not liberal capitalist, who wants Fabian socialism, went there and bought everything. The core of the Soviet elite, however, the KGB, did not consent to its secondary role which was now destined for they and the new phase of the world revolution. Why? Look, the problem has always been between Fabian socialism and Marxist socialism. We are both socialists, we are both going in the same direction, so it matters to know who controls the process, and who serves as an instrument to the other. The Fabians tried to make the communists serve as an instrument, and the communists made vice versa, but in the end the Fabians won. But the KGB staff was very frustrated with this. Now they have succeeded, now they are transformed us into their employees. But we do not want it. Then the KGB admitted the defeat of communism but not his own. He raised his head, reacted, and created from nothing a new independent strategy, the Eurasianism, more hostile to the whole West than communism ever was. So what the MacArthur-Lulds have done in China, is what he did in Japan, implemented democracy there, and the democracy of Japan works out today. And he would have done the same in China. Truman did not let. Do not let why? Escape the plan of the great Fabian elite. Note that this collaboration of this elite with the communist and Nazi governments was more than a collaboration, it was a patronage. They practically created these savings. They created the Soviet economy, they created the Nazi economy, nothing would exist without this damn thing. So who studied for many years was Anthony Sutton, who was an English economist, who was working at the Hoover Institution. And he made a 3-volume treatise about the technology transfer to the Soviet Union. And it showed the following: the Soviet industrial park, we did it all. Soviet industry does not exist, we did it. Then, he received the staff of the Hoover Directory who called him in a corner and said no, that cannot say, you stay quiet, etc., etc. He lost his patience and resigned from Hoover. So, you have all these people, there are many people who are not even the capitalists themselves, they are the intellectual teachers who are aware of the general policy. But it keeps discreet. One cannot say that it is a conspiracy, but a thing of this size is not conspiracy, of course. If it is a vast ideological movement, it is 100 years old. That dominates the political landscape of the United States, at least the whole Democrat Party, and in the Republican Party filled with several Fabians as well. The real Cold War is only now beginning, and by the way it has already come hot. The competition between capitalism and socialism was an ideological veil for use in crowds, but the fight between the East and the West is for real. Not coincidentally, the faithful of the balance is the Middle East. Halfway between the two blocks. There as Muslim nations will have to decide whether they continue to serve as a docile instrument at the hands of Russians, whether to accept accommodation with the Fabian elite, or even to make the world a vast caliphate. The Western elite who speaks through the mouth of Mr. Barack Hussein Obama seems determined to make them to lean in the latter direction. For reasons that so evil and imbeciles, I miss the desire to understand them. This is, my dear readers, is what is happening in the exact moment, and you will see nothing about it on Veja or the Global.